What if I told you there's a prophecy written over 1,000 years ago that describes with terrifying precision exactly what we're living through today? I'm not talking about forced interpretations or conspiracy theories. I'm talking about sacred texts, historical documents, and statements from political and religious leaders that you yourself can verify. What you're about to hear is going to change the way you see the news, the world, and perhaps your own life. Stay until the end, because the most shocking part comes in the final minutes. And before we continue, if this kind of content feels powerful to you, if you believe the world needs more people who seek the truth beyond what the media shows, subscribe right now and hit the notification bell. This channel exists because of you, and every new subscriber allows us to keep investigating and sharing what many prefer to keep silent. Let's start from the beginning, from the heart of one of the oldest and most profound traditions in the Islamic world. Within Shia Islam, there exists a figure who occupies an absolutely central place in theology, in politics, and in the collective imagination of millions of people: the Mahdi. His full name is Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Askari, and according to Shia tradition, he was born in the year 869 AD in the city of Samarra, in what is today Iraq. For Shia Muslims, he is the 12th Imam, the last in a line of spiritual guides who descend directly from the Prophet Muhammad through his cousin and son-in-law, Ali ibn Abi Talib. But here's where it starts to send chills down your spine. The Mahdi did not die. According to Shia doctrine, in the year 874 AD, when he was just 5 years old, he disappeared into a cave in Samarra. He didn't die. He vanished. He entered what is called the major occultation, a state of hidden existence in which he remains alive, waiting for the moment appointed by God to return. They have been waiting for his return for over 1,150 years. And when he returns, the prophecies say, he will not come quietly. He will come to establish an absolute kingdom of justice on earth. He will come to defeat tyrants, to purify the world of corruption, and to establish the rule of God over all of humanity. His appearance, according to the sacred texts, will be accompanied by cosmic signs: a voice heard from the sky, the rise of a man named Sophiane, who will sow chaos across the region of Syria, the murder of an innocent soul called Nafs al-Zakiyah in Mecca, and the sinking of an army in the desert. Now stop for a moment, because what you just heard is not abstract theology. This is state policy in Iran. The Islamic Republic of Iran, founded by Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini in 1979, was literally built upon this belief. The Iranian constitution doesn't merely speak of a temporary Islamic government. It speaks of preparing the way for the return of the Mahdi. Khomeini himself declared that the Islamic Revolution was not an end in itself, but the first step toward establishing the universal government of Islam under the leadership of the hidden Imam. This is not empty rhetoric. It translates into concrete foreign policy. When Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, Iran's current supreme leader, speaks of resistance, of the axis of evil, of the destruction of Israel or the fall of American power, he is not doing so purely in geopolitical terms. He does it in eschatological terms. For Iran's religious and political elite, we are living in the times preceding the return of the Mahdi, and their role, the role of the Islamic Republic, is to accelerate that process, to create the conditions so that the world is ready to receive the Imam. The guardians of the revolution, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, known as the IRGC, have been described by several of their own generals as the Army of Imam Mahdi. This is not a poetic name. It is a declaration of purpose. General Qasem Soleimani, the powerful commander of the Quds force who was killed in 2020 by a U.S. drone strike in Baghdad, was presented at his funeral as a martyr who died on the path of the Mahdi. Think about it. A modern nation-state with ballistic missiles, with a nuclear program, with armed militias in 4 different countries, operating from an end-times theology. That is Iran. And this is where the story becomes truly fascinating and deeply unsettling, because in the Judeo-Christian world, and especially within certain evangelical and Catholic traditions, there also exists a figure awaited at the end of time, the Antichrist, an entity or person who will seize power over the world, who will present himself as a Messiah, who will unite the nations under his command, and who will ultimately be defeated by the return of Christ. And some theologians, both Islamic and Christian, have pointed out something that is impossible to ignore. The characteristics of the Mahdi according to Shia tradition and the characteristics of the Antichrist according to Christian tradition resemble each other in a way that cannot be coincidental. Wait, because this is where many channels stop. But we go deeper. According to certain hadiths, the sayings attributed to the Prophet Muhammad, the Mahdi will reign over the earth for a period of between 7 and 19 years. He will establish his capital in Jerusalem, or in some texts, in Kufa, Iraq. He will be accompanied by the Prophet Jesus, whom Islam recognizes as a prophet, and Maryam, who will descend from heaven and assist him in his mission. The Mahdi and the Islamic Jesus together will defeat the Dajjal, the figure of evil in Islamic eschatology, whom many scholars identify with the Christian Antichrist. Here then, the paradox becomes completely dizzying. For the Christian, the true Messiah is Jesus, and the false Messiah is the Antichrist. For the Shia Muslim, the true Messiah is the Mahdi, and the false one is the Dajjal. And in Islamic prophecy, Jesus himself returns to support the Mahdi. Who is right? Are they describing the same event seen from opposing perspectives? Or are they completely independent traditions that converge by coincidence? What we do know is this: in both traditions, the geographic setting of the end times is the same. The Middle East, Jerusalem, the region that today stands at the center of the most dangerous conflicts on the planet, and the political actors involved, Israel, Iran, the United States, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Russia, are following patterns that align unsettlingly with these ancient narratives. Before we continue, I want to pause for a moment and ask you something. Leave a comment below with your opinion. Do you think these prophecies have anything to do with what we're living today? Do you think political leaders actually believe these things? Or do they simply use them as tools of power? Your perspective enriches this space, and every comment helps the channel grow. Write to us down below. We read everything. Now, there's something that many people don't know about Iran's history that is fundamental to understanding how we got here. Before the Islamic Revolution of 1979, Iran was a key Western ally in the Middle East. Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi was a pro-Western, modernizing monarch, backed by the United States and with normal relations with Israel. Iran was a stable regional power within the geopolitical order of the Cold War. All of that collapsed in 18 months. Between 1978 and 1979, a coalition of religious, nationalist, and leftist forces overthrew the Shah and allowed the return of the exiled Ayatollah Khomeini from France. What followed was something the world had not seen in the 20th century: a theocratic revolution, not a military dictatorship, not a communist party, but a government based on the concept of velayat-e faqih, the guardianship of the jurist, the idea that supreme political power must rest in the hands of an expert in Islamic law until the return of Imam Mahdi. And since then, Iran has operated under a dual logic: the logic of the modern nation-state, with concrete geopolitical interests, and the eschatological logic, the belief that every political decision is also a spiritual decision that either draws closer or delays the return of the Mahdi. This dual nature explains many things that would otherwise seem irrational. Why does Iran fund Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in Gaza, the Houthis in Yemen, Shia militias in Iraq and Syria, despite the enormous economic and diplomatic cost? Because it doesn't see this as mere geopolitics. It sees it as the construction of the axis of resistance, a network of forces that will prepare the ground for the Imam. Every militia is a piece of the Mahdi's army. Why does Iran insist on its nuclear program despite decades of sanctions that have impoverished its people? Because the nuclear weapon is not merely an instrument of military deterrence. In the minds of certain sectors of the regime, it is the guarantee that the Islamic order cannot be crushed before the return of the Imam. Now I want you to stop and think about something that is rarely discussed openly. The great empires and civilizations of history, without exception, had their prophets, their sacred texts, and their conceptions of the end of the world. And without exception, these conceptions shaped their politics, their economies, their wars, and their cultures in ways that contemporary historians sometimes minimize or ignore. The Babylonians, the Persians, the Egyptians, the Romans, the Maya, the Aztecs, all of them built systems of power that rested upon narratives of divine origin and cosmic destiny. This brings me to something I want to share with you, because I believe it is genuinely valuable. There's a book, an eBook, titled The Secrets of Wealth from Ancient Civilizations. And I'm not talking about a self-help book filled with motivational phrases. I'm talking about serious research that examines how the great civilizations of history accumulated, managed, and transmitted their wealth across time. How the Persians, the Babylonians, the Phoenicians, the Romans, and other cultures developed economic, philosophical, and spiritual principles that remain relevant today. Principles that modern wealthy people know and apply, and that most of us never learned because they are not in school textbooks. The link to get it is in the description of this video. It costs just €10. €10 for access to centuries of concentrated wisdom on the creation and preservation of wealth. And beyond that, every purchase directly supports this channel to keep producing content of this quality, to keep investigating, to keep putting on the table the questions no one else dares to ask. If you value what we do here, that is one of the best ways to support us. The link is below in the description. Don't let it pass. And let's return to the thread, because the most impactful part is still ahead. There is a recent event that many experts in Islamic eschatology identify as a turning point. The Hamas attack of October 7th, 2023 against Israel, and the subsequent war in Gaza for the Iranian regime. This conflict is not merely a territorial or humanitarian conflict. It is a prophetic event. Several religious leaders in Iran and Iraq publicly declared that the events in Gaza are signs of the imminent return of the Mahdi. Ayatollah Ahmad al-Mulhoda, Khamenei's representative in Mashhad, openly stated that the destruction of Israel is a condition for the appearance of Imam Mahdi. He didn't hide it. He declared it in recorded sermons broadcast publicly. And it is the narrative that has sustained the Islamic Republic for more than 4 decades. Now think about this. Since the Islamic Republic was founded, Iran has survived a devastating 8-year war with Iraq, in which between 1 million and 1.5 million people died. It has survived decades of international sanctions that have destroyed its economy. It has survived targeted assassinations of its nuclear scientists, sabotage of its facilities, and covert operations by the CIA and Mossad. And it is still standing, still defying. Why? Because its motivation is not only political, it is eschatological. They are willing to wait, to suffer, to resist, because they believe God Himself is on their side and that the final outcome is already written. This is what makes Iran so different from other authoritarian states. It is not merely a dictatorship struggling to survive. It is a theocracy that believes it is fulfilling a cosmic role. And now to close, I want us to think together about the question that underlies all of this. Are we living in the end times? I won't give you a definitive answer. No one can. But I will tell you this. When nuclear powers make decisions based on prophecies that are 1,000 years old, when religious leaders with influence over millions of people declare that certain conflicts are signs of the apocalypse, when the eschatological narratives of 3 of the world's great religions converge on the same piece of land at the same historical moment, something extraordinary is happening. Whether or not it is the end of the world, it is the end of a world. The post-Cold War world. The world of liberal consensus. The world where religion had been relegated to the private sphere and geopolitics was purely secular. That world no longer exists. What comes next? No one knows for certain. But what we do know is that understanding it requires understanding these narratives, these prophecies, these beliefs that move millions of people and the states that represent them. If this video opened your eyes to something you didn't know before, if you feel the need to share it with someone else who is also trying to understand the world we live in, do it now. Share it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, this is the moment. This channel is a space for those who don't settle for the official version, for those who know that behind every piece of news there is a deeper, older, and more powerful story waiting to be told. See you in the next video.